A little bit of good news is I got an activity win between those two games because my opponent didn't schedule. But I mean, they did, but they kept changing their mind. They were like, "Oh, I can play between these two times," and I was like, "Cool, I'll play the earliest time," because they were 9 hours behind me. And then once I asked for that, they were like, "Oh, actually, no, I can only play at like 4, which was like, I don't know, 2 a.m. my time." I was like, "I'm not doing that." And then they didn't respond, so I got the win. But that got me an extra point. So because of that, it means I'm comfortably in the 20s now. So I'm pretty confident. Plus, the room tour series started, which I'll cover eventually. But I'm definitely getting points from that because I'm currently in first place. Yeah, so this time I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna make a kind of more funnish team. I mean, I know it's season 13, so fun is subjective. Like, nobody plays this to have fun, really. Although, actually, I have a Shedinja team that I didn't make, but I have it, and that is fun. I've got some good games for that. I might just compile a few of them because they're all really fun. Just because I'm Shedinja and Folk, and it's really, really funny. Anyways, yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go Specs Kyogre. That seems pretty cool. I'm gonna use a different mythical this time. I've never used a Melmetal before, except in Pokemon Go, but that doesn't really count because it doesn't have double Iron Bash. Oh, I went for an offensive Yveltal this time. Yeah, I decided to add my own Hippo, and it has a distinction of being one of the only Pokemon I've ever made shiny on Showdown, because I have a shiny Hippopotas in Legends Arceus, which I found full odds. I found it next to the alpha one, which hunted me after I caught the shiny, and I was terrified. Because it just wouldn't stop. It just wouldn't stop chasing me. But yeah, this Hippo is shiny in memory of that Hippo, which I say memory, like I still have it. It's not gone anywhere. I actually probably will put it in one of the games because is Hippo in the Scarlet Dex? Because if it is, it'll be 3v3 relevant. Same Zacian spread. I give it Fire Fang this time because I didn't want to lose to Shedinja myself. And I made a fun Zekrom, which is a Soul Vest. I think this is a team I do have. I removed the EV spreads just because some of them I want to keep private. But I remember making the Zekrom. It is designed to be able to beat Yveltal and Kyogre, basically. It needs to max to do that comfortably. I don't think necessarily versus Kyogre. It depends what the item is. But the Assault Vest when I'm maxed means that I take 2 Life Orb Max Darknesses, which I do know. And then, yeah. So I'll always win that exchange, which is fun. So yeah, it's kind of a more cute team. I really didn't know what to do with Melmetal because I'd already made the Zekrom at this point in time. And I was like, what do you run with this? So I just slapped a choice band on it. I was like, I reckon that's alright. So here are the games. I realize I've not been saying anybody's names. I mean, you can read. Frosty Ice Lad is my opponent. They were also in my time zone, so they're either from the UK or they're from Portugal, which was exciting because I was like, oh my god, we get to schedule at like normal time of day, and then we still scheduled for like 11 p.m, which is whatever. They have a sock, which is really cool. I have no idea what it does. Like, I've looked at sock before in the past because it's got sturdy, right? So you can do funny like custap things with it, or lychee berry things, or Salak, that's the other one, right? Where you can go down to 1 HP and then you can just fire off reversals. So you either go down in like custap berry or it's like lychee berry, and you've got this massive attack stat because it's base 125, like base 200 power stab, crazy move. Like, I don't know, it was a cool choice, and it scared the shit out of me because I was like, what do I do versus that, right? Because I've looked at it in the past, I was like, is it gonna be, because I think it gets counter as well, right? So it's always gonna go down to sturdy, so I need to be careful about what I hit it with. Yeah, so it's like, okay, Is it going to randomly cust at me and reversal me? Is it going to be Lychee Berry? Am I going to get knocked out? Is it going to be Scarf? And I'm going to get swept? There's so many things going through my head. Unfortunately, this isn't really the game for Zekrom. I know they have a Yveltal, but like Groudon and Dialga basically just make it redundant. Which is a shame, because I really, really like Zekrom. I also don't think Melmetal is any good here, because again, they've got Groudon, they've got Yveltal, they've got Lunala, they've got Dialga, like all those things just hammer it. One thing I noticed in team preview, which is something I'd completely glossed over while building the team, was I don't have a Dialga matchup, because I got rid of my ground type, right? Well, I mean, I didn't get rid of it, I have the Hippo, but like, I got rid of my offensive ground type, if you will, because like Hippo's slow and it's always physically defensive, so it doesn't beat Dialga. I think you die to like Life Orb, Max Dragon, still, so it's like, well, that's not doing anything. But the thing is, I felt pressure to bring the Hippo, right, because of the Lunala, and I was like, and also the Sawk. So these are two things that I don't want at full HP. And I was like, well, at least it leads well into these two. And I don't know anything about the Yveltal, so... Because Yveltal can be, like, fucking anything. Like, I've been running a Scarf one, like, there's Assault Vest, there's Life Orb, there's Supportive. Yveltal is, like, really one of the best mons in this format. This is game 2. So now we're on the right game. I lead Kyogre, hoping for a Groudon lead. Unfortunately, I see Lunala. I have no idea what Lunala does in this format, because in my mind it's not really something you'd want to bring, given that Yveltal and Calyrex Shadow are on 80% of teams. So there's a couple of things it could maybe do, like maybe it's got Hypnosis, maybe it's got Calm Mind, maybe it's got Trick Room. Looking at the composition of the team, Trick Room seems the most unlikely, and a general good rule of thumb with Battle Stadium singles, right, is if a thing can learn Thunder Wave, it's gonna have Thunder Wave. Like everything basically runs fucking Thunder Wave, right? Because I'm a little bit scared of the Shadow Shield, I'm like, okay, right, I'm just gonna attack. Hopefully, like best case scenario for me is 1, I'm faster, and 2, they just go for like a Moongeist Beam. Or maybe a Calm Mind. Because I'm Specs, I should knock them into range that even if they're a +1, I still get the KO. They go for Thunder Wave, as I mentioned, everything that can will, but luckily for me they miss, right? So after this kind of gift from the heavens, I'm like, I do not want my Kyogre paralyzed. So what I end up doing is hard switching in my Hippowdon, hoping that they will go for it again, and thinking to myself, this would be a great opportunity to get a Yawn train going, maybe get my rocks up, and maybe chip some stuff with some sand. So I hard switch. They do not fall for that and just go straight for the Moongeist Beam and knock me into berry range. So now I'm not in a great spot. I decide to Yawn because sleep is kind of more important, I think, and it's, you know, if I can kind of force them out or force them into a bad situation, like where they're asleep, like maybe then I can get into a situation where I can start kind of getting some footing back. Because despite the fact I got really lucky turn 1, I'm not in a great spot. Like Lunala is a bit kind of a problem for me, and I've basically lost my Hippowdon. So getting it to do anything is good, right? Because it's drowsy, like in my mind here, there's a couple of things, right? I could go for rocks, or I could go for Yawn again, because if I just continue to Yawn, they're forced to make a decision. They have to then choose, right? Do I switch out, or and you know, risk the next thing getting yawned, or do I stay in and get the KO but I go sleep? And it's like, I don't know, it's always an awkward spot to be in. So I Yawn again, they hard switch, which is good, because like Dialga, like I mentioned before, is a big problem for me. So I'm like, okay, cool, if this thing goes to sleep, that's great. But they switch again and I just Yawn again, and yeah, I think I just Yawn again, and yeah, they just take me out. But this is fine, because now Lunala's asleep, which means I get a free turn to do something. So I bring in my Yveltal. I feel like this is a great opportunity to kind of get Yveltal going. So because I'm offensive, something that I was thinking in my mind was, if I can get a speed boost going, I should be able to sweep just about everything with my Yveltal. The Dialga was concern in my mind. I was like, I need to hope I can get like some good hits in on that. But as you will see, I do not. And I'll explain what happened and what was going on. So I get the Airstream boost because this puts me faster than Zacian. Like even modest max speed Yveltal is faster than Zacian at +1, which is nice. So they bring in the Sawk, and I'm like, oh no, he's here. What does this mean? So I'm terrified of this because, like I mentioned earlier, this could be anything. I know it will be sturdy, but like, you know, I don't know what kind of like damage or moves to expect. So I just go for the Airstream, bring it down to sturdy, and see what kind of damage it's going to be firing off. And it does loads. Which means it's probably banded. Maybe. I don't know. So I'm about 44%, and Dialga comes in. Now this is... No. Oh, I unmaxed. Okay. Yeah. So the game is basically over at this point in time, right? I get a hit off, lose Dialga, lose Yveltal to Dialga. It sets up Max Lightning, and obviously my Kyogre is not going to be able to beat that because it's a Kyogre. Oh, so what I end up doing here is, so this is good. This is good information for two reasons, right? I'm not max speed Kyogre, which means that this is bulky Dialga, or bulky-ish. Maybe it's just max HP. I don't know. Because I'm choice specs, I have to lock into a move. The reason I opted to go for Blizzard was I wanted to freeze chance. Basically, my only way of winning this game at this point in time was hoping that either I outsped, which I did, or I survived, right? And my literally only option was I freeze, and then hope that Dialga stays frozen for long enough that I can just chip it down with Blizzard. As you can see, I miss the first one. But I do survive because I'm really good at making EVs. And then I hit the next one, and it does okay damage, which means that, like, you know, if I'd hit the last one and then I'd hit again, and if one of those two had frozen, like, providing, you know, I land enough attacks, I might have been able to clinch it at the end. But unfortunately, that's not true. So I lose game 1 to Dialga, realizing that it is a big problem for me, because Dialga by itself basically shuts out these two, more so the Zekrom. The Melmetal's just kind of shut out by everything else. So I'm basically playing against 6 Mons with what I would say is 4 Mons, and I need to decide what those 4 Mons are, and it's tricky. Oh, that's the wrong place. Oh yeah, because I forgot to move the games around. So game 2, because they led Lunala last time, I'm like, okay, well, I'll go for Yveltal as a lead to try and catch it, and it should cover, like, you know, a Groudon lead or a Sawk lead as well. But unfortunately, they see right through that and just go straight Zacian. I have Hippo in the back though, so that's kind of an okay-ish switch for me. I bring it in, we see the shine, they go for play rough, and it's not 2-hit KO, which is nice, which means that I get to do, you know, something. I think I go for a Yawn. Yeah. Because basically I want to force it out. I want to put something to sleep. And Lunala comes back in, and Lunala comes back in at a pretty decent time. Oh, I go for rocks here in case the Lunala was in the back, just to kind of screw it over. I know. Oh, it was also for the Sawk. Right. Yeah, I didn't want to lose a turn getting rid of like Sturdy and Shadow Shield and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm fine losing Hippo as long as I can break both of those things, right? So Lunala comes in. I'm like, okay, fine. So this turn I stay in because I'm like, well, I might as well just try and Yawn. And they they try and get fancy and they go for the Thunder Wave. I'm assuming predicting my Yveltal to switch in, because that's really the only reason you would do that. But at this point in time, I'm just like, it doesn't matter. I'll sack the Hippo and just get myself a free switch. But that works out for me because they make a big read. And now Lunala is in a situation where it has to choose, do I KO the Hippo when I go to sleep, or do I let things get whittled down by rocks? And they decide to sacrifice the Lunala, which for me is good, right? So I bring in my Yveltal, which, as you'd expect, is probably the kind of best thing I could do versus a Lunala. It's very, very, very threatened. And I go for the max straight away. And go for Airstream because I want to put myself faster than the Zacian. So what I'm thinking of right now is, right, because I'm modest, if I'm faster, I should be able to knock out, with the rocks damage, Zacian with max flare. Moongeist Beam, sorry. Yeah, Lunala is guaranteed to sleep this turn because it went to sleep at the end of last turn. So I get this free hit off, and just one max turn should be enough to do anything really. And this is where I make my kind of first mistake, right? So they go to sleep. So Lunala is in range of everything I can go for, and I don't need any more speed. What I should have done, I think, is go for the max flare, because then that would set me up into a situation where should Zacian come in, sun boosted heat wave will just knock it out. So I don't need to worry about it, basically. Instead I go for darkness, which is whatever. It doesn't gain me anything. Whereas like going for heat wave wouldn't have lost me anything. They bring in Dialga, and this is where I make the probably worst play I could have ever possibly made. And I go for the max guard because I'm like, okay, well, I'll stall out a turn of their Dynamax. Now, because I'm Life Orb Yveltal, right? I've got a calc here. This is based off of no bulk, which we have seen it is bulk, right? So we'll just fire that in. We'll assume 4 maybe as well. So it does 46 to 54. So potentially around 50, right? And then if we get rid of that, we do 50% max. So I had to, this is why you calc while you're playing, because I didn't, basically. And I was just sort of like, I was trying to think ahead, but I wasn't thinking about what I would actually do to beat Dialga. I was just sort of thinking, oh, well, if I stall out with the max, it's like, okay, yeah, sure, but then what, you know? Because if it's at full health, it doesn't matter, because it's still going to wall Kyogre. This was my only way of beating it, right? And this is, again, a timid one, like, which I think mine either is or isn't, I don't remember. But like, the only way I could have won would be to lower its Spadef and then hit it with Dark Pulse. And basically, like, that's the wrong game. I kind of put myself into this situation where, like, I could have won this whole game had I just played like these literally last 2 turns differently. Because if I'd set up the Sun versus Lunala and then went for the max darkness here, then the Sun would be up, Yveltal would knock Dialga into about 50%, lower its Spadef, and then I'd have to get a roll to win the game. But if I got the roll, then I was in a situation where I'm in the Sun, I've got a +1 speed Life Orb Yveltal, and yeah, like, what's the Zacian gonna do, you know? And like, even if I didn't KO the Zacian, I would be able to put it into range of my own one, which would, you know, would give me a chance. And like, even if I didn't KO the, what's this thing called, the Dialga, right? Like, because that was a pretty pitiful Dark Pulse roll, which implies that maybe it's got a bit more bulk than just max HP. So like, even in that situation, like, the Dialga would at least be in the red, so I wouldn't need to go for the close combat, which I end up doing. And I would be able to go for the Behemoth Blade, because that would get the knockout, right? And then I would have my full health Zacian versus their full health Zacian, but I have rocks. And then it would be a case of one, who's faster, and two, who takes the Behemoth Blade better, because I also have quick attack. So I don't know. I just basically set myself up for complete failure by not kind of really thinking through the turns that were going to come after the turn. Like I don't know. I was making plays and making reads and whatever, and trying to play safe, but without actually thinking about what my goal was. You know, it's like, okay, cool, stall out the max. Then what? Because like realistically, like even if Dialga's not max, like I'm still putting my Zacian to minus defense, and then it's just like, well, what, you know? Then I just die to the Behemoth Blade. So like, I wasn't really thinking through, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. And you know, got punished for it. Like I can complain and say, oh, I don't like the format, I didn't prepare and whatever, but that doesn't help. You know, I'm not gonna improve that way. Like, I mean, it's true, don't get me wrong, but like you can still reflect even when you didn't care about what was happening. You know, like I said, I didn't need any more points than what I'd already gained, but there was still better things I could have done. There was still better plays I could have made if I sat down and actually like thought about the games that were gonna happen. Maybe, you know, I'd have got more points. Not that I think it matters, but like, you know, it'd be nice to win one of these. But I don't know, it's good to kind of reflect, I guess. Like this is still my first year of playing BSS, so the fact that I'm in the top 4 of the standings is still pretty impressive, but like, I don't know. These are still pretty careless mistakes. So yeah, I think I could definitely have done better there. Especially this game too. It's like watching back, it's actually really quite frustrating, because I was given an opportunity with them making a hard read with the Hippo, and I didn't really capitalize off of it. Like I said, I could have set up the Yveltal and it would have been fine. Yeah, like I said, I think it's just, regardless of how serious you're taking the thing, I think it's always a good idea to just reflect on how you could have done it better. Like, I mean, don't, you know, beat yourself up about it. Don't be like, oh, you're the worst player in the world because you didn't call the double switch or whatever. Like, but, you know, be constructive, because like, I don't know, unless you're literally winning worlds, there's usually something you could have done better. And I think that's just a good mentality to have. Anyways, this is getting quite thoughtful.